Hello, and welcome to Blank Plate, a podcast for Swifties with an appetite.
I'm Sara, and I used to be a little kid with glasses and a twin-size bed.
I'm Laura. I'm a mess, but I'm a mess that I wanted.
And we've got a blank plate, baby, and we'll write your name. Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm already tripping over my words. Here we are.
Yeah. We've got an intense one today.
Yeah, you guys. Okay, Eldest Daughter is maybe the most controversial track 5. A lot of people don't like this track, but Sara and I are big fans.
Big fans, yes.
And I hope we do it justice because we maybe we'll convince some of you that this song actually is very good. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be an intense one. I'm pregnant. Sara, are you on estrogen? What's going on? Is it like going to is it going to kickstart you? I mean, probably, right? Like
maybe the estrogen usually helps me.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I might be like the most stable I could be for this, but I'm still going to cry. I can tell I'm going to cry because I cried doing our notes.
Always.
For the
bridge. Yeah. Yeah, Sara and I were both texting each other. Just cried listening and cutting up the song. Oh,
right.
Just cried making this association. Yeah, it's like it's
going to be some crying. So just prepare you guys for that.
Yeah,
we'll be crying this episode. But if you've been listening to us, you're also used to that. We're no strangers to crying on this podcast.
No, we like to shed some tears here. So absolutely. All right. So Sara, what's on your plate?
Okay, so I was just recently a guest on the podcast called Finding Mr. Height to talk about my experience with like infertility, IVF, premature perimenopause, and like endometriosis, how all that stuff plays together like in my personal story. Which like if you've been listening, you know that I've like touched on this stuff here and there. But if you want to hear me kind of dive into that even more and hear like the whole story all together, you can go check that out. We'll link to the episode for both Spotify podcasts and Apple podcasts. But Finding Mr. Height is a podcast I've been listening to since it started back in like 2021. And it's actually like a dating and relationships podcast. But she touches on kind of like a lot of topics. And she recently started wading into like the perimenopause department because she herself thinks that she's kind of entering that phase. So she does these episodes called Listener Storytime. And I reached out to her and was like, hey, I think I might be a good guest to come on and talk about my experience with all this stuff because I've apparently already been through perimenopause like completely.
Right.
So I can definitely chat about what that's been like for me, especially because I only figured that out like a year and a half ago. So for me, it's more in hindsight looking back at all of these symptoms that were actually perimenopause, but at the time I did not realize.
Yeah, and when you guys listen to this episode, I mean, listen, I've experienced all the discoveries along with Sara, like always trying to like catch up on what exactly is going on because it's been a lot of like, well, then it's this and then it's that and then it's this. When you actually hear Sara explain from like, you started from your 20s, basically, your early 20s to where you are now, you realize how messed up the system is for women and how Sara basically became her own doctor and advocate and how infuriating that is.
Yeah.
And after this episode, I was like, legitimately, Sara needs to open up her own company to be like a women's health advocate because you need to be like someone at the table when they're making discussions about what's next steps for like fertility or like whatever, where you could be like, well, have you considered XYZ? Well, have we thought about XYZ? Have you thought about maybe this could be the cause? Because legitimately, through your trial and error of all the discoveries that you've made, you legitimately have so much understanding about things that OBGYNs don't
it's
even
crazy.
know about.
I'm like, should I be a doctor?
You should be an advocate. You should be a women's fertility advocate. So you could hire Sara. You should hire Sara, and then she'll like come to virtually whatever to like give you sound advice and to walk you through like what actually is going on. Because
No, it's crazy how
It's insane.
even friends of mine who have gone to the doctor for fertility reasons or whatever, the struggle to just get a doctor to order a simple blood test is crazy.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is actually an issue with the way insurance works in our healthcare system. So it's not always just the fault of the doctor. It also goes back to just the system that we operate in. But yeah, I mean, the episode came out yesterday as of our recording, and I already heard from several friends who reached out to me and were like, wow, this was really eye-opening, or you've really encouraged me to now go advocate even more for myself because I think I'm experiencing some of this.
Right.
And I even heard from a stranger, shout out to her if she came over here and is now listening, that she's in basically the same boat as me. She actually she's single and went to freeze her eggs, and she's my age. And her hormones were at a similar place. So freezing her eggs was not successful. And even at her fertility clinic, the doctor did not tell her hey, you're basically at menopause. So it wasn't until she was listening to me talk on this podcast that she was like, holy crap, wait, am I in menopause? Cause she said the way the doctor made an offhanded comment to her about, yeah, you'll probably reach menopause early. Not oh, you've reached it, but you might reach it early. So she thought, oh, I might be entering perimenopause. Not oh, I've already been through it. And she's connecting the dots, hearing me talk about it. So I was if you were the only person who ever heard this episode, then I'm glad that I did it.
Well, this is what I mean. When you're sharing your story, people listen in, because let's be real, a lot of women, when we're dealing with healthcare issues about fertility and hormones and whatever, oftentimes, your story, we are pushed aside and told, go on the pill or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we're just sort of trained to just think that doctors are professionals and know what they're talking about, when really there's a whole other side of things that we have no education about. Doctors may or may not have education about.
They don't have the education about. That's the problem.
And because so many women are just societally told to just not complain. Mm-hmm. There's so many women that are going to be able to listen to your story and be like, well, actually, I've been thinking something's been off for a while. Why haven't I? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And hearing your story, I think, is going to make a lot of women be like, I should actually really keep bugging my doctor about how I'm feeling. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And it was interesting to hear Allie, the host, intro me at the beginning of the episode to kind of hear my story through her eyes, because hearing her intro me made me realize how much I've even dismissed and diminished my own story to myself, which I think is very easy to do, because to me, it's just my everyday lived experience. So I'm kind of this is normal. Right. This is how life is. And even on the episode when I was talking about endometriosis, and I was like, yeah, I think my case of it is honestly probably pretty mild. And I was like, well, wait, actually, I did have cramps that would send me into shock on a regular basis. So I don't know. It's just we as women, we constantly minimize our pain because we're so used to pain. Mm-hmm. So I'm the pain wasn't that bad. I didn't die. You know, it's I remained conscious. So I think it's not that bad. Yeah. And it's so funny too. When I do my pelvic floor therapy, she's often do you feel pain with this? On 1 to 10 is what is this? And I'm a 1? I don't know. I'm
what is the scale?
I was I don't even know if I would call it pain. It's just uncomfortable. I'm what is pain?
Right.
You know, what kind of scale are we talking here?
Right.
Whereas a man might be oh, it's a 3. And I'm
or it's a 7.
Yeah. It's I don't know. And then even today I was at my fertility clinic, and the one nurse practitioner who did my last biopsy of my uterine lining, she was like, wait, how did that go? How were your results? And I was oh, it came back receptive. It was great. She's like, you were such a champ. Like, I don't know. I was like, honestly, it wasn't that bad. She's like, it seemed awful to me. And she's like, I don't know. And she was like, I think you might have a high pain tolerance. And I was like, maybe I do.
I think that's definitely
don't know.
accurate. Absolutely.
Yeah, perhaps.
Absolutely. You have a high pain tolerance. Are you kidding?
Yeah, that's why I'm hoping, like, if I get pregnant, I'm hoping that delivery is going to be like no big deal.
It probably will be. I mean,
maybe.
if karma is good, your delivery will just be like,
please.
Like,
right? I know. Wouldn't that be great?
That just seems to be right in my eyes. So
I think it's what I'm owed at this point.
Absolutely.
You know?
The easiest pregnancy, the easiest delivery ever.
Please.
Yeah.
Oh,
Speaking
God.
of pregnancy,
yeah.
Okay. So on my plate, I can feel baby kick, which is
exciting.
Really weird.
Yeah. Is it happening a lot?
Okay. So people like a couple weeks ago were like, can you feel baby kick? And I have an anterior placenta, which basically means my placenta is like on top of baby. Like,
okay.
Like closest to my skin, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So when baby's kicking, I'm not feeling it because there's basically like this cushion. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, like by your belly button?
Yeah. So they were like, oh, you're probably not going to feel anything until about 21 weeks. And like clockwork, 21 weeks, I was like, that was not a gurgle of my stomach. Because it people are like, oh, it feels like butterflies in your stomach. No.
Okay.
They're like, it feels like you have to fart. No, it's not that. Someone told me it feels like when you hit your funny bone and it moves around.
Yeah.
No. It's the weirdest feeling. It does feel like a gurgle in your stomach, like when, but it's like not hurty and it just like moves. It's very weird. So I can feel baby kick, and that's adorable. And you're like, oh, they're kicking. I'm also at the stage where I have debilitating heartburn. And
oh no,
I didn't even tell you this, but like in the middle of the night a week ago, I woke up to choking on my own vomit.
Oh,
because
no.
I had such bad heartburn that literally I woke up and I was choking on throw up.
That's awful.
And, like, could not breathe. And thank God Luke was downstairs. I fall asleep really early too. But like Luke was downstairs and he heard me stumble out of bed, like literally could not get air into my stomach or into my lungs. I can't speak. And and he comes up, he's like, oh my God, do I have to do the Heimlich? And I was like, don't do the Heimlich. There's a baby there. Like, so I'm like trying to mouth him, like, don't do anything. And I like finally like got water down and it like helped with like, it was so scary.
That is scary.
But that was from acid reflux / heartburn overnight. Okay. So now I'm afraid of sleeping.
Yeah. The one thing that you definitely need.
Yeah. I'm afraid I'm going to choke to death in my sleep.
That's terrible.
I now have my nightly Tums and Pepsid that help me.
Have you had heartburn and stuff like pre-pregnancy in your life? Okay.
I've never had heartburn. So I didn't even know I was experiencing it. I was like, oh, I just feel like this weird, I don't know, like I didn't even know what I was experiencing. Also, I'm at this very great phase where I have lots of, I guess, bloating all over, including, and that also means I have carpal tunnel. So I want to remind people, I am a music teacher and I teach guitar.
Oh.
So I want you to imagine teaching guitar with carpal tunnel. Like,
oh no.
Terrible. Also, my ring does not fit on my finger. Okay.
Yeah, you got the sausage fingers.
I got the sausage fingers going on. So if anyone's like, she's not wearing her ring, it's because I can't put it on my finger anymore. I have to like go to Amazon, order a fake ring that's like size 10, legitimately. And I'm like, so like, yay, I can feel baby kick, but like all these like weird symptoms have started to crop up. It's very bizarre. My nightmares are insane. Yeah.
I'm worried about that because I already have really vivid dreams.
You do. Yeah.
And sometimes they are really crazy. Which actually I have noticed, like when I've had to be on the progesterone for IVF stuff, my dreams get even crazier.
Well, buckle in because I don't remember my dreams most times, but like I have to wake up and be like, oh my God, you didn't choke on your own vomit. Good job.
Yay.
And then I'm like, it was just a dream. It was just a dream. It was just a dream. Like, remind myself to go back to sleep. It's literally insane. But
yeah. How many weeks are you like today as of recording?
24, which means I've reached viability week, which
That's
is like
amazing.
a big
exciting.
Deal.
Congrats. Yeah. What pastry is the baby, or what fruit or vegetable? Or
they are an ear of corn.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of big. Last week they were a Furby.
Oh,
do you remember Furbies from the 90s?
Yeah.
So like that was the size of them last
I thought Furbies were bigger than that.
No, they're like, I don't know. They're about the size of my snow globe. Anyway, but
okay.
Wow. But yeah. So it's been a lot of weird symptoms, and I have a big appointment next Thursday for an echocardiogram to make sure baby's heart is okay. So that's sort of like on the radar and causing a little bit of anxiety, not as much as our anatomy scan.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just something to just keep in the back of my brain that needs to go well. But that's where I'm at.
Well, exciting. I know it's tough, but you're getting through it, and reaching viability is a really good place to be at too.
It is. I cannot complain. It's a good thing that I have things to complain about. So
right.
Yeah. Okay, so just so everybody knows, we are recording this early.
Yeah.
Because the holidays, you guys, it's insanity.
We're both going insane.
Sarah's traveling. I have Christmas parties. Like we have no time.
Yeah.
We have like a life and jobs, which is crazy.
Right.
But so we're recording this early.
Crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm trying to say our Taylor updates are going to be very much behind. I mean, at this point, you're listening to this, the docuseries is out. But
not for us.
We obviously have not watched it.
Yeah, we're recording pre-docuseries.
Yeah.
It's coming out after. And you and I won't even be watching the docuseries when it comes out, because I'm going to be in New York City.
Yeah.
So it comes out Friday the 12th.
Yep.
I'll be away. And then both of our schedules are crazy. So our plan is to watch it together the night of Wednesday the 17th.
Yeah. And like, listen, we're not going to ban ourselves from social media. We're going to see the things.
Yeah. I'm okay with seeing some spoilers, because there's no way they're going to spoil like all 2 episodes of it. So that's fine.
Yeah. So we're going to watch the 2 docuseries episodes later than even like when this episode comes out. So we have no idea what is going on with the docuseries. So
yeah, I hope it's good. I'm sure it is.
I'm sure
we're going to love it. Whatever. Also, she's going on Colbert's show.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like tomorrow. So we haven't seen that yet either.
Yeah.
So that'll probably be fun. I love when she's on Colbert.
Give me one sec. All right.
And Laura, you also had a little bit of an update for us?
I do. And then I have something else to add. Okay. So last episode, Sarah and I got into a tiff about Father Figure and Christmas Tree Farm. Mostly about like instrumentation and like, what was going on like underneath the production. And I was like, if they're not the same, blah, blah, blah. And then I listened to Father Figure on my way to school, like literally 2 days. No, it was maybe like when I was editing it. And I was like, never mind. I hear the similarities. So
you hear the Christmas Tree Farm of it all.
I hear the Christmas Tree Farm of it all.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's just a little section, but it's there.
Just a little, sprinkle in there. Mm-hmm. So I do hear the similarities between the two. So if you haven't listened to our Father Figure episode, go back and listen and realize that growth can happen. So, okay. Another thing with Taylor updates, which we don't have in our show notes, is that this week specifically, there's been a lot of speculation that Taylor is going to get married on June 13th. That's like her confirmed date.
Okay.
And the reason why people are speculating this is because she apparently had to buy out another bride to use the venue who originally had June 13th. Again, this is all, to me, very speculatory, and I highly doubt it.
I thought we already knew that was fake, because, like...
I feel like there's more and more articles cropping up that this is, like, confirmed and this is going to happen. And to me, it's like, there's no way that we're going to know what the date is. Would it make sense as the 13th? Absolutely.
Also, I think if someone got bought out like that by
NDA.
Taylor Swift, there would be an NDA. Also, they talked about this on Taylor Watch like a while ago. And they were saying how you never hear it like from the person.
No.
It's always like, I heard that from someone's sister that they have a friend.
Yeah.
Like, it's not real.
No.
But I've been ignoring like all the like wedding rumors that have come out recently.
Yeah.
And I did see something that like Tree Paine could possibly be feeding like false information to just throw people off the scent.
Give the 13th as a red herring and have her secretly get married in Italy somewhere. And we'll hear about it later. You know, and there's all these like events that there's another thing about her bachelorette parties being like, there's going to be a ton of bachelorette parties. I think I saw that on Taylor Watch as well. Again, same as you, I'm like in one ear out the other when it comes to the wedding content because I just, there's no way that she would get married publicly with the date, considering how much security.
Yeah, there's no way we're going to actually know the date. No. There's no way. Yeah. So I wouldn't read into that stuff like at all.
No.
And I want it to be private for her.
Yeah, I don't want it to be ruined for her. So, you know, even if it is the 13th, everybody better mind their own business and not go to Rhode Island. Okay?
Right. And isn't she like renovating that house? But I think she's been renovating it for a while, the Rhode Island house. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, guys.
Who knows? I'm not worried about it.
Nope. It'll happen when it'll happen. So it will be. Okay. I think we have to get into it.
It's time.
Okay.
Time to dig into Eldest Daughter.
Okay. So Eldest Daughter, obviously from Life of a Showgirl, released October 3rd, 2025. Written and produced by Taylor, Max Martin, and Shellback. Fountain, quill, or glitter gel pen. I think we're both in agreement this is a fountain pen.
Definitely a fountain pen song.
Definitely not a glitter. Definitely not a quill. So
right
to the point.
Definitely not a quill.
Definitely not a quill.
Much to people's chagrin.
Yeah. Do I wish it had a quill treatment? Absolutely, but it's okay.
Right.
Sister song / related album. I really struggled with this one, so why don't you go first?
Okay, so I chose Lavender Haze because both songs have a lot of talk about what other people think and say about her. And then Lavender Haze is where she lied and said she doesn't care about marriage and she's like trying to be cool. And we also know that she put Lavender Haze in her denial playlist.
Right. All they keep asking me is if I'm going to be your bride.
Yeah. And so Eldest Daughter is her basically saying like, I take that all back. Like when I said I don't believe in marriage, that was a lie. Yeah. You know, I was in denial. And then I had a honorable mention song, which you ended up choosing. So why don't you talk about that one?
So Sarah wrote down honorable mention to Robin, and I was like, yes, that's what I was looking for. I was trying to think about, is it 7? I'm trying to find one of the songs that relate to childhood in a way that sort of wants to preserve sweetness. Because the bridge of this whole song is essentially discussing and sort of reminiscing on like how sweet childhood is and how when you find the right person and you are safe with someone, you sort of feel that all over again. And like the perfect example of that is Robin. So keeping that childhood innocence, sweetness alive. Yeah. That's sort of the gist of the whole bridge, which is my personal favorite part of the song. So
yeah, me too.
How could it not be? It's one of the best bridges on the album. So
yeah. So for a related album, or like, you know, what album could this possibly be slotted into and sound at home? I changed my answer today when I was finalizing our notes. I changed it to Fearless because the production of this song is a little bit fearlessy.
Yeah.
But it was kind of hard.
Yeah, this one's tough.
I originally said like the anthology of Tortured Poets. But yeah, I think Fearless is actually where it belongs. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later in the musical theory section of this episode.
Yeah. I said lover, not based on subjects of the song. Like, obviously, lover is related to Joe. But more just like, I think that when you think about, I don't know, like some of the verses talking about like, everybody's so punk on the internet, everybody's so unbothered till they're not. Like, it kind of reminded me of like some of the themes of Lover. I think that, you know, this I'm not a bad bitch, this isn't savage, sounds like a Reputation track, but the production is more Lover, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I really struggled with this one as well. So
Yeah.
I literally put Lover ? Like, it's really hard to figure out where this belongs. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So personal associations.
Yeah.
Laura, I think you should go first.
Okay. So if you watch our reaction video to this,
which I'm planning to have that out before this episode is released so that you guys can go watch it, because they really go hand in hand for this one. You kind of need to watch our reaction to fully understand Laura's like emotional tie to this song.
So like Sara had this moment in TTPD with a word or words, grief, like cereal, basically.
Yeah, the eating kids cereal and not being able to sleep, that hit me like a Mack truck.
Yeah. Well, I had the word lilacs.
Yeah.
Just like, okay.
Right. So random.
It's just like, so where to begin? Like, go watch the initial reaction video. This one, again, it hit me like a freight train. Specifically the bridge. So I really do feel like this is my track 5. I feel like this was the thing that was written for me because, like, I think the reason why I connect with this song so much is because I am an eldest daughter. I know what that means to my core, but also so much of this song reminds me of Luke and I's relationship. Now Luke is not the youngest child, but he has in a lot of ways this very youthful, free spirit to himself. And I don't necessarily have that. And he brings that out of me. But like specifically verse by verse, the like when I told you I was busy, that was whatever, that was a lie.
Yeah.
That's how our story started. I was like, I don't want to date you. I'm going to move to another city, like whatever.
Luke was like in love with you and you were like, I'm busy.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
So, yeah. Travis Kelce had a friendship bracelet and dream. My husband had a hand-painted ukulele and told me he loved me before we were even dating. And I was like, now I'm busy. So like, and then from there, it's like, you know, all the excuses I made to like not really want you to even like be that open, based off of like previous relationships that happened, not wanting to be vulnerable. And then like later, it's like when I said I didn't believe in marriage, that was a lie. It's like Luke and I were dating a long time before we decided to get married.
Long time meaning like 9 years.
Like 9 years.
And like you guys weren't planning to get married. Like you had bought a home together. Like it just like wasn't your plan.
And nor did we like really, nor did I, and I was okay with it not being the plan. Yeah. And then now that I am married, I was like, oh girl, like
you always wanted to.
Come on. Like, like,
yes. Yeah.
And so these like verse by verse things that were like check mark. And then we get to the bridge where it talks about lilacs, and I'm gonna cry already. But my childhood home was like, it's so special. We don't live there anymore. And like the garden back there reminds me a lot of like sweet Pennsylvania summers. Yeah. And we had a lilac bush. And I was like, I'm done.
Yeah. My parents' house where I grew up also has a lilac bush. But it didn't hit me the same way as you.
And I think like as I was going through, it's like check mark, okay, check mark. And then like you realize like when you're with the right person, like finding like home and safety is like the best feeling ever. And how like especially someone like Travis, someone like Luke is sort of like life of the party, like brings a different like childlike sense like out of me. And I'm sure out of Taylor that like is the best. So so I literally was like, I want you to listen to the song and I want you to think about our relationship to Luke. And he was like, that's really sweet. I was just like,
you're like, that's it?
I was like, yeah. He was like, oh, that's nice.
Oh my God.
So yeah. That's what happened with me.
Right.
But yeah, I like these. But the thing is, like, when I listen to the song and Taylor's explanation, it makes sense. It's coming from her world. But what I love about Taylor's music is that, like, I can't relate to being like hated on the internet to the extent of Taylor Swift. I can't relate to like trying to like wanting to be like, you know, the eldest daughter of like an industry or something like that. But she's so good at some of these like very specific lines that cut, and also like specific details that really like flesh out an illustration of like what she's talking about, that we can all relate to it in our own like different perspectives. So
yeah. So that's Laura.
So that's me.
And I would say I loved reacting to this one together because I got to experience that intense reaction from you.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, which was like, it helped me. Like, I don't know what my reaction would have been if I had been alone, but we were obviously together. And then like reading through the lyrics together, we were both just crying like, it's so beautiful. So it hit me hard right away, like being with you like that. But and I do think it is beautiful, specifically the bridge. And my initial read of this song was as Taylor talking to her younger self, which we'll talk about. But like, and maybe it is partially that. It's like partially Travis. It's also her talking to her younger self and not wanting to like abandon those parts of herself. But then about a week after the album came out, I was driving, probably in the dark, and I listened to the bridge through an infertility lens. And now that's all I can think about when I hear it. So that makes it even more like difficult for me. Like if I'm not on estrogen, I will cry during the bridge to this song every time. And even sometimes when I am on estrogen.
Yeah.
But that was one thing I learned. It was like a week or two after the album came out, I started taking estrogen for one of my IVF cycles. And I was like, oh, I can get through this song without crying. And then as soon as I stopped taking estrogen, like clockwork, can't listen to it without crying. So, and my case is a little different because I'm the baby of my family, but also the eldest daughter because I have 2 older brothers. So like a lot of this song resonates with me, but probably not quite as much as you because you have a younger sibling. So
I'm also I was like, also like, why does this hit? Like, I have one brother, like whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm also the eldest female, like cousin of the whole family too. So that's a whole nother. Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely relate to some of the eldest daughter stuff, but I'm like a lower case of an eldest daughter.
We'll touch on that because we have theories on eldest daughters. So
yeah.
You still count, okay?
I do still count.
You absolutely still count. So
yeah. All right, so let's get into the folklore of this song.
Yeah.
This is a track 5. Which, so it was back around the time that Red came out in 2012 that Swifties started to notice that Taylor tended to place like a consistently heart-wrenching song in the track 5 slot on an album. And then a few album airs later, she confirmed that her fans were in fact onto something. She said, quote, I didn't realize I was doing this, but as I was making albums, I guess I was just kind of putting a very vulnerable, personal, honest, emotional song as track 5. She said this on an Instagram Live in 2019. And then, quote, so because you noticed this, I kind of started to put the songs that were really honest, emotional, vulnerable, and personal as track 5.
So now that's like categorically
it's official
how she plans an album.
Exactly. So just to go through the albums and the track 5s. On debut, we have Cold As You. Fearless was White Horse. Speak Now was Dear John. Red was All Too Well, obviously.
The ultimate.
1989 was All You Had to Do Was Stay, which I think is like kind of the outlier here. Everyone like forgets that this is a track 5. But we should read into that. That means something. So Reputation was Delicate. Lover is The Archer. Folklore is My Tears Ricochet. Evermore is Tolerate It. Boom.
Woo!
Midnights is You're on Your Own, Kid. And then for Tortured Poets, we had So Long, London. And then technically, How Did It End is the track 5 of the anthology.
Right.
So this is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
The track 5s.
Yeah. So a lot of people are like, track 6 is actually my track 5, which is, Ruin the Friendship has a debilitating, like, heart, gut punch twist, which we'll talk about in a future episode. But to Taylor, this is the most, as she said, emotional, vulnerable, and personal track that she could share on the album.
I mean, Ruin the Friendship isn't even technically that personal because she told us it's based on like several people in her life. Like, that's not a track 5. Like, track 5 doesn't just mean it's like devastating in some way. Like, it's not always sad necessarily. It's just, it's honest and vulnerable.
Right.
More
like,
than anything.
Think about like, The Archer. The Archer is kind of another sort of like self-reflective, like, it's not just about like, oh, someone died or, oh, I'm sad. It's
You're on
often
Your Own,
like,
Kid.
Right. It's often like her most self-reflective song as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking about Eldest Daughter, we have to talk about Eldest Daughter Syndrome, which is like sort of taken the internet by storm before this album came out. Lots of Substack pieces have been written about eldest daughters, so if you're on Substack, but it's used to describe a widely recognized pattern in which a family's firstborn female child is expected to shoulder outsized responsibilities and intense emotional pressures. These experiences can lead to lasting issues with perfectionism, anxiety, people-pleasing, burnout, and other mental health struggles. So technically, like, the eldest daughter becomes second in command of the family, oftentimes like the third parent or caretaker of other siblings or other children. And there's this like internal responsibility, like, it's your job to set a good example. Like, oh, you're so mature for your age, because they had to grow up early. They're high achieving, their anxiety, like, they sort of take on adult responsibilities like innately.
Yeah. And I just want to say, it's like the eldest daughter syndrome is a product of, in general, the way society treats women and our expectations of women, because it's like a double whammy when you're like the eldest one in the family. But like, because like I said, I'm the baby of my family, but I only have brothers. And I'm the one who's a perfectionist. I'm the one with anxiety, who's a people pleaser, who experiences burnout. And, on top of that, I have mental health struggles. So check.
Yeah.
But like, I think, like, as a baby of the family, my experience of that was like, I have to do everything for myself because no one has time for me. And I think especially if the baby is like a son, that's where you get that cliche of like the youngest brother who just like runs wild and like
wild child,
doesn't have a care in the world. Whereas like, I think for me, being the youngest and also being a girl and the expectations put on me by society, I was like, I have to be like perfect because I don't want to like require anything of anyone. It made me very independent.
Yeah.
And of course, like, my parents are like the best parents in the world. And like,
right.
Like, I wanted for nothing growing up, but I think and especially because my brothers, I think, demanded a lot of attention from my parents for various reasons. So I was like, I just need to stay out of it. I need to like handle my own shit and like, just not cause any problems.
Yeah.
And on top of that, being a girl, different expectations.
I love this explainer by Eli Rallo talking about like what eldest daughter like lore is. So like essentially, like, media covers eldest daughters to be like firstborn daughters in families with other siblings. Not necessarily like that you're the firstborn who happens to be the daughter. Like, being the eldest girl / daughter in the family weighs heavier because of like emotional labor that women have to do especially within like a family structure. But no matter where you line up in the family, if you're the first daughter within that family, you're getting the load of the eldest daughter, even if you're the baby. because
Mhm.
you're still the firstborn daughter.
Yeah. Wait, so Eli agrees with us on that? Because I thought I
100%.
disagreed with her. Maybe it was someone else talking about it
No,
that I saw on TikTok. Okay.
she's in agreement with us on that. Like, basically, if you are the eldest daughter in any lineup of the family, if you're the girl and
Mhm.
you're the oldest, whether you're the,
Yeah.
second child or whatever, you're still the
And
oldest daughter.
that's the whole point of it.
Right.
Because otherwise it would be like firstborn syndrome. It's
Right.
not firstborn syndrome.
It's a female.
It's
Yeah.
eldest daughter.
Yeah.
Like the whole point is like, even if you have an older brother,
Right.
guess what? More of it falls to you because you're the daughter.
Right.
Because more is expected of women to be caretakers
Yep.
and to, make sure everyone else has what they need before you have what you need.
Set a good example, like, all the things. I think that, like, and Taylor's not the oldest child either. Her brother Austin is older than her.
Oh, I thought he was younger.
Oh, sorry. She is. I stand corrected. She is younger. She has a younger brother named Austin. She is the eldest daughter.
She's the firstborn and the eldest daughter.
Yeah. But, like, also a lot of people have compared Taylor as, like, the metaphorical eldest daughter of the music industry.
At least of, like, the current music industry.
Right. Well, think about, like, Gracie and Sabrina and Olivia. All of them look up to Taylor as a role model.
And Taylor's still there. I think that's the difference. It's like Taylor's idols are probably people like Madonna, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, like, I don't know, people like that. But they're not still in the system.
Right.
Whereas like Taylor now has people that we call Tay daughters.
Yeah.
So she's like mother. And, she has these people who have come up in her image and inspired by her, but she's still right there with them.
Right. She's not retired. She's not living on an island somewhere. She's still in the industry. But she's had to shoulder so much of the, like, criticism and, conversations swirling around her and her personal relationships in a way. And when she writes her music and is honest, like, in a way that a lot of artists didn't do before her. Like Madonna, Britney Spears, they weren't mentioning names. They weren't, they weren't writing their own music at all most times. So when you're sharing your story so openly as Taylor, she's really sort of the first person to shoulder that criticism and discussion about her life. And a lot of these younger artists are doing that now in the footsteps of her as the eldest daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. Okay, so especially right when this album came out, there was a lot of chit chat about the lyrics of this song, which we'll obviously get into.
Yeah.
But Taylor, in her interview with Zane Lowe for Apple Music, she kind of like pushed back on this.
Yeah.
So here's what she said. She said, quote, "Sometimes I'll use specific vernacular to be satirical. The entire first verse of Eldest Daughter is somebody trying to figure out how to say things that they've read on the internet, whether it be like apathy is hot or memes and trolling. How do I keep up with how we talk in order to describe how much we don't care when really we all care about something, right? So then you go to the pre-chorus and I go more into my own voice with, I have been afflicted by a terminal uniqueness. I've been dying just from trying to seem cool. That's the tag. So that's the kind of flip of every way in which I was speaking in the first verse. Verse was me trying to assimilate to the way culture tells us to be, which is like weird because honestly, I feel like going back to the idea of being a showgirl, they are tough in a way. That old school tough where they're going to smile on the outside and they might have a storm going on in their lives. That's the kind of toughness that I have tried to aspire to on the last 2.5 years of my life that I've been preparing for and being on this exhaustive tour. But there's also this like cultural thing where we like sort of talk about softness and sadness and these feelings of being hurt and feeling. Those feelings we have, but we're not allowed to express wanting love, wanting these things in life. There's this aversion to actually seem like you could need anything, that you could want or need anything. You're supposed to accidentally have love. Yeah. So she's telling us right there. But yeah, so she's saying like, it's not cool to be like, hey, I kind of need somebody. I
Mhm.
kind of need someone to lean on. I actually really want a partner. I want to get married.
Mhm.
But in trying to seem cool and apathetic, like, oh, like, I don't care about marriage. Like, I don't need anything. I'm a bad bitch. I can do this all on my own.
Mhm.
But really, that's not true
Right.
for pretty much anyone.
Right. Nobody. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She also had a couple things to say at the Showgirl movie premiere. She said, Track 5 is a song called Eldest Daughter, which is a concept I've always been fascinated by. I am the eldest daughter of my family, and you talk to other eldest daughters of their family, and you kind of somehow usually have a very similar experience with the world and with fear and with feeling like you have to sort of do it all, and these kind of issues with like the constant quest for perfectionism, almost to the point where you can get in your own way. So I've always loved this idea of what it means that it makes a specific combination of characters' traits. And that at the same time, I'm also fascinated by the culture we live in, how people have always wanted to look cool and people have always wanted to look sexy and powerful and unbothered and busy and like they don't need or want anything. It's almost like the opposite of these things would be like sincere on the internet, because that would seem needy and nobody wants to be needy on the internet. That's not the place for it. Which is true. So I
Yeah.
kind of combine all of those ideas and put it into a song that kind of unmasks all the facades we put in front of ourselves and just says like, yeah, I'm not a bad bitch. I'm not like all of the things that we aspire to be culturally and that we were told that we have to be in order to find love. Like you have to act like you never wanted to be in it in the first place, and like soft, like allowing yourself to be soft and sincere and allowing yourself to admit you do actually maybe need somebody.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to see if the Amazon track by track really said anything different than that.
She said people reward you for being like tough and unbothered and like too busy to care, which is true.
And you may be that about some things, but everyone has things that matter to them and people that matter to them. This song really kind of gets to the heart of when someone gets close enough to you to earn your trust.
Mhm.
That's when you can admit to them that you actually really do care about some things.
Right.
Yeah. Which, like, we're assuming that this song is basically her speaking to Travis,
Mhm.
and like opening up about herself in a vulnerable way that he has allowed her to do, because he's someone that she allowed herself to get close enough to tell him like, hey, I actually care about all these things. Like, even though I act like I don't, like
I
the secret
really
is
do.
I
Yeah.
actually really do.
Right.
And another interesting thing is that, so like Taylor is the eldest daughter, but she's also the firstborn. And Travis is the youngest sibling. He has one older brother, Jason, who we all know and love, the future brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And so an eldest child paired with a youngest child is a very common romantic partnership. And then the eldest daughter and youngest son is supposed to be especially compatible. And we can link to a little article about this, but the birth order theory suggests that they are a perfect match because they balance each other. And an eldest daughter typically offers steadiness and care, while the youngest son brings fun and flexibility, which is very much described in this song.
Yeah, definitely.
Where Taylor's saying, like, I'm never going to let you down. Like, you can depend on me. I'm steady and consistent. And then she's saying, like, I haven't laughed this hard since I was a kid.
Right.
And like, you're bringing out like this youthful sweetness that I didn't know that like I could have in my life.
Like you felt you were raised in the wild, but now you're home. Like I can be your safety and security. Yeah. It's, great match.
Yeah.
All right. I feel like we have to get into it.
All right. It's finally time to start the song.
All right. So here's verse 1.
Everybody's so punk on the internet. Everyone's unbothered till they're not. Every joke's just trolling and memes, sad as it seems. Apathy is hot. Everybody's cutthroat in the comments. Every single hot take is cold as ice. When you found me, I said I was busy. That was a lie.
So good.
Okay.
Well, first I just have to say that the production of the beginning is so stripped back. It just feels like in the Showgirl premiere, the background track is just her on the piano, on the stage. It just sounds like that.
Yeah. Which makes sense with the vulnerableness of the song. It's very raw. It's not dolled up and dazzled with production.
Yeah.
It's
doesn't need it.
It's basically just Taylor and the piano.
Stripped back. Yeah. Everybody's so punk on the internet. Everyone's unbothered till they're not, which is so true.
Yeah.
We're all affected by stuff as much as we try to act like we don't care. For example, sometimes Sarah and I get mean comments on TikTok videos. Okay.
Or Instagram. Yeah.
And we're commenting you need to calm down. But behind the scenes, Sarah and I are sending screenshots and being can you believe people are saying this?
I know.
We put on this front oh, we don't care. We're so unbothered. But the truth is no one's really unbothered. You can't
Right.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all bothered.
We're all bothered. Okay.
Yeah. Every joke's just trolling and memes. Sad as it seems, apathy is hot. Again, everyone's so obsessed with being unbothered and cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true that every joke is just trolling and memes.
Yeah.
A lot of jokes are negative. You're trolling the person, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Apathy is hot. That's actually a huge thing right now with especially Gen Z. They're kind of known for their apathy.
Also, their obsession with not being cringy.
Oh, yeah.
Their obsession with being cool and looking unfazed and I'm not trying too hard.
And not aging.
And being so embarrassed by millennial cringe.
Right. Everyone's so obsessed with us.
I know. I literally every day I'm just if you embrace the cringe, you will be free. Free yourself.
Embrace the cringe.
Embrace the cringe. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, apathy is hot. Apathy is not a trait of an eldest daughter.
Mm-mm.
We literally care too much. And I would say we cannot afford to be apathetic typically because if we don't care, then who will?
Right. Right.
I'm sorry, is the family gathering going to get planned if the eldest daughter doesn't make it happen?
Oh, are the parents going to get their anniversary gift unless the eldest daughter organizes what's going to be their present?
Exactly.
We have to care. Okay.
Right.
Everybody's cutthroat in the comments. I mean, goodness gracious, Taylor's learned that she has to protect herself through many experiences that she's had, but not be vulnerable, not be open to the world at large because she has been torn apart. She's been canceled. Okay.
Right. Yeah. She literally turned comments off on her Instagram back in her cancellation era around Reputation. And she's never turned that back on. Which I
to you, girl. Yeah.
There's no need. Absolutely no need.
No.
And of course, that made me think of this part of You Need to Calm Down.
You are somebody that I don't know, but you're taking shots at me like it's Patron, and I'm just damn. It's 7 a.m. Say it in the street, that's a knockout. But you say it in a tweet, that's a cop-out. And I'm just hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you even imagine the discourse that Taylor has to hear about herself?
Oh. Yeah. I would not survive.
No. And you know that they have to tell her some things hey, so just so you know, some people are talking about this, just so you're aware of it. And even that's heavily filtered from what the actual discourse is.
I know.
Insanity.
Yeah. I love this next line. Every single hot take is cold as ice. Because you can read it both ways. Everyone's hot take is actually just mean. It's cold.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Right?
Yeah.
But also, it's not even that hot because everyone has the same take. You aren't special.
True. True.
You being mean with your hot take is not a hot take.
Right.
Go take a seat. Like, everyone is saying the same thing as you. You're not special.
You think you're being tough, but your opinion really isn't that much of a hot take at all. Yeah. And then we get, when you found me, I said I was busy. That was a lie. Okay, so like, honestly, a survival strategy, an excuse to like not give someone a chance. Also, it's like pretty classic for eldest daughters to be on the move, to be like taking care of business, holding down the fort, like that high achieving sort of like, I don't have time for this because I have so many other responsibilities. Yeah, like basically keeping things together for the sake of everyone else. Yeah. But yeah, it also could totally be like, of course, Taylor talking to Travis and saying like, when you found me, I said I was busy. That was a lie. Basically, like, Travis came to see her on the Eras tour. Like, he didn't even get to meet her. Like,
right.
Like,
but and she also didn't know he was like trying to see her. But I do wonder if that's like a little nod to him not being able to see her when he came to the Eras tour. And but yeah, and you know, maybe if he had like met her that night and shot his shot, she might have been like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have time for this. I'm literally doing like a world tour, and I've just been through a lot. So
I've been busy. Yeah, I'm busy. Right. Sorry. Which is fair. You are busy. But yeah. All right. Pre-chorus 1.
I have been afflicted by a terminal uniqueness. I've been dying just from trying to seem cool.
It's like, that's a very vulnerable thing to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so terminal uniqueness is like a term that's used to explain personal exceptionalism or the belief that like you are extraordinary, not like other people. Taylor has been afflicted by a terminal uniqueness. I mean,
so is terminal uniqueness a phrase that already existed?
Yeah, it's like, I think, a psychological term that people use. So like,
okay.
But terminal uniqueness is like, of course, terminal is like, you're going to die from being so special.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a phrase. So I always read it that way. Like, she's been afflicted by this uniqueness that is literally killing her. Like, it's a death sentence.
Well,
and then the next line, she says, I've been dying just from trying to seem cool.
Right. Well, she ties terminal and dying together. So we can take it as that.
Yeah.
And trying hard isn't cool. And we know that Taylor is a tryhard. Okay.
Yeah.
She's literally mentioned, she was like, I'll never be sexy and cool. I'm going to be smart.
Right.
I forget what interview that is, but it's one of her best quotes because she's like, I'm not interested in being those things. Like, it's not in my nature. So she is always going to be a tryhard. And that made me think, of course, of this line from Mirrorball.
Have never been a natural. All I do is try.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our society is obsessed with like the glorification of like being cool, not caring. Also, like anything that excites women or interests women specifically is laughed off as being not serious or frivolous or stupid.
Oh, you like your pumpkin spice lattes? It's like, yeah, I do. Okay.
Yeah.
I also love Gilmore Girls and I love reality TV. And you know what?
And Taylor Swift.
I'm allowed to like those things because you like stupid things like football. Okay.
Yeah, seriously. No offense, Travi, but seriously.
Just, you know, the level of like obsession we allow men to have with their infatuations and give validity to versus like women's interests become like this unserious thing. Yeah. It's just.
Yeah. You know? And I saw a lot of content about that around Thanksgiving because I saw one that was like, can you imagine if there was like something on TV that lasted 4 to 5 hours during the middle of a major holiday and women were expected, and it was like totally fine for them to just sit and do that for like 5 hours while the men like cooked and cleaned and like did everything else.
I think we should make this happen. I mean,
right?
Equality.
I mean, like Taylor should release like a 5-hour documentary next Thanksgiving, and all of us Swifties can be like, I'm sorry, I can't I'm unavailable between like 12 and 5
I'm
on
booked.
Thanksgiving because we're going to be on the couch watching this.
Yeah.
So if you could just like make dinner for everyone and like set the table and clean,
be a good host
and like entertain people, like that would be great. I'm going to be in this other room.
No, seriously.
No, seriously. Like if you flip it around, it sounds insane.
But it's
that would never
literally
happen.
what the world. This is the world we live in now. Yeah.
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 I also love it because she like the change of words here slightly, because one might say, I'm just dying to seem cool, which means like, I really want to seem cool. Like I'm just dying to seem that way. But she's saying I'm dying from trying to seem cool.
Like
instead of saying
the act is actually killing her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like when you hear it, like you can almost hear that other phrase that would be a normal thing to say. I'm dying to seem cool. But she's saying I've been dying just from trying to seem cool.
Got it. Yeah.
It's a very Taylor thing to do.
And of course, a good rhyme.
Yeah. And just in general, like all this about like the internet discourse and stuff, and then like trying to seem cool, and it's literally killing her. We have this line from Lavender Haze.
I'm damned if I do give a damn what people say.
Yeah.
I'm damned if I do give a damn what people say.
Which again, this song was in the Denial playlist.
Mm-hmm.
She's playing it cool. Oh, I don't care. Like, whatever. I don't give a damn what people say. Girl, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all do.
Yeah.
All right. Chorus 1. Here we go.
Okay.
But I'm not a bad bitch, and this isn't savage. But I'm never gonna let you down. I'm never gonna leave you out. So many traitors, smooth operators, but I'm never gonna break that vow. I'm never gonna leave you now.
There you go.
All right. The part that angers so many people.
Yeah. Which I have to say, if the word bad bitch bothers you, just listen to the clean version. Okay.
Oh, yeah. What does she say in that one?
I'm not the baddest.
Oh, right.
So if you're really cringed out by it, just listen to the clean version. Okay. But just a reminder, the word bad bitch is used intentionally. Like, because again, she talks about how she wanted to use specific vernacular to prove a point, which, you know, this like outdated, cringy, Taylor saying bad bitch is so cringy. That's the whole point. But
yeah, like it's supposed to sound weird coming from her because it's not who she is.
Right. She literally said, I'll use specific vernacular to be satirical.
And like the fact that like you and I clocked this immediately, as did many other people. The amount of people whose heads this has completely gone over. I'm like,
yeah,
this is where people read her lyrics and listen to her songs in bad faith.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't pay attention to context.
Right. It's like the high school comparison. Why does she always write about high school? Oh my God. Like, don't get us started.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like listen to the song.
Yeah.
She's explaining it if you pay attention.
Right.
And
she's trying to seem cool. It's not working. Okay.
The other thing I don't understand is like some people, whether or not they think it's cringy, maybe they don't, but I think for them it's almost cringy, or it just bothers them that this language is from a very specific moment in time. So everyone's like, it just like it dates the song. And I'm like, okay, what? Who cares? Like this song is from a specific time. It came out in 2025.
Right.
Like let it have 2025 related language.
Specific vernacular. Okay.
And like plenty of songs do this. There are so many pop songs that have slang terms in them.
Right.
But as soon as Taylor Swift does it, it's somehow a problem.
Right.
Because we can't imagine this song being written by Taylor Swift's ghost in 1837.
Yeah.
You know, like, who cares?
Yeah.
That really bothers me.
Let her go. Like, she's fine.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Everyone can chill out.
Yeah. But, like, also, like, this is a confession. Like, I'm not a bad bitch. Like, I'm not trying to be savage, but, like, I'm never going to let you down. I'm never going to leave you out. It's basically her saying, like, I know I'm not cool, but I am completely in love with you and I care. And, like, I know that makes me look corny because, like, the world doesn't want or is telling me that I'm not supposed to want this. I'm not supposed to care. I'm not supposed to, like, want you to love me back. Like, but I don't want to lose you. So I'm laying it out on the table. Like,
yeah, I read it as, like, I may not be cool, but I'm also never going to let you down. And that's what I bring to the table.
Yeah. And also,
you can count on me.
The classic, like, caretaking responsibilities of, like, I'm the eldest daughter. Like, I'm not going to let you down. Like, I'm not going to leave you out. Like, that's not in my nature. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So many traders, smooth operators. I take this to mean, like, there are people out there who will, like, promise to be there for you or who act cool, etc. But they're going to let you down and I won't.
Yep.
Because then she says, but I'm never going to break that vow. I'm never going to leave you now. So my question is, like, why do you think she says now?
I think it's in reference to when I told you I was busy, that was a lie. Basically saying, like, I sort of left you in the dust because, like, I didn't, like, I wanted to assume that, like, I'm on my own path. I'm doing my own thing. But, like, this is me saying, like, I've gotten to know you. I'm being vulnerable with you. Like, I'm never going to leave you now. Like, I'm not going to just, like, toss
now
you
that
away.
I've, like, come to this realization, I'm not going anywhere.
Right. That's how I take it.
Yeah. Okay. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
So in doing our notes, I was like, oh, this song's kind of making me think of the song Never Grow Up. And this is how, like, I get a lot of my things where I'm like, something about this is, like, gnawing at my brain from this one song. Let me look at the lyrics, see when I'm, something, strikes a chord. So I was looking at Never Grow Up and I saw this part of the song and I was like, oh God, this is so similar. So here's this.
I won't let nobody hurt you. Won't let no one break your heart. And no one will desert you. Just try to never grow up.
Very similar sentiment. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm never going to leave you. No one will desert you.
Yeah.
And that song is to her little brother, Austin. And that one also very much goes along with Robin. Like, I'm trying to preserve this sweetness for you.
Right.
Because I no longer have it. And I'm looking back thinking, like, how wonderful was that? I'm trying to tell you, like, please don't ever grow up.
Right.
Like, it's not good here.
It's don't do it. Yeah.
Don't cross that bridge. Just
don't do it.
Never grow up. Stay this little.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I was, like, looking at all these other songs like Never Grow Up and, like, Seven and Robin. And I was, like, crying. I was like, oh my God, these songs
Very
are hitting
sweet.
so hard.
Yeah.
In the context of Eldest Daughter.
It's a pretty common, like, theme in some of her songs is this sort of, like, childhood innocence.
Yeah,
theme.
which we'll get to a little bit more in our next section. So yeah, keep that in mind.
All right. So here is verse 2.
You know, the last time I laughed this hard was on the trampoline in somebody's backyard. I must have been about 8 or 9. That was the night I fell off and broke my arm. Pretty soon I learned cautious discretion. When your first crush crushes something kind. When I said I don't believe in marriage, that was a lie.
All right.
So we add, like, guitar, we add bass, we add, like, some other production things, which, like, to me is, like, symbolically, metaphorically is, like, we're like, the last time I laughed this hard was on the trampoline in someone's backyard. It's like almost like the feelings are deepening. Like it's getting deeper and deeper.
It's getting like lighter too.
Yeah. So like it's becoming more serious, but also it's becoming more childlike and sweet. So
yeah. I like that.
The last time I laughed this hard was on the trampoline in somebody's backyard. I must have been 8 or 9. That was the night I fell off and broke my arm. So like obviously like this relationship, which we're assuming is Travis, gives her that feeling of like that unbridled, like reckless joy when you're just like, when you have so many belly laughs, like your belly hurts from laughing so hard. And oftentimes like eldest daughters, our like childhood kind of ends early because we take on a lot of responsibilities, adult leadership things early on. So like, having your childhood kind of end at like 8 or 9 is really sad, but it oftentimes is reality because like you got to grow up. You got to like become that parent role.
Yeah. And some fans also wonder if this is actually a reference to her 1989 era. Because she says, I must have been about 8 or 9. And I think there are actually photos or stories of her writing with Ed Sheeran while on a trampoline. I'm pretty sure they wrote Everything Has Changed and Run together on a trampoline. I feel like she talked about that during the Red TV era. So maybe she's kind of saying like, if she is kind of referring to that era of her life, maybe that was the last time she felt more like carefree and young as an adult until she met Travis. And because then she says, that was the night I fell off and broke my arm. And like, as far as we know, like we've never heard of Taylor breaking an arm. I don't know if we would, if she has or not, but it was after the 1989 era that things really like took a turn and she got canceled and things like that. I also personally love this part with the trampoline in somebody's backyard because one of my best friends in like 5th grade, she lived 2 doors down from me and she had a trampoline in her backyard that we were always on. And then she moved away in like 7th grade. So it was like she moved to the neighborhood in like 5th grade. We were immediate friends, part of my friend group. And then she moved a couple years later. So shout out to Ashley. You're probably not listening. But
hey, Ashley.
Shout out to Ashley.
Yeah. But then it's like, so because of like this metaphor of like, I must have been 8 or 9. That was the night I fell off and broke my arm. Pretty soon I learned cautious discretion. Is like, well, metaphorically, she's saying like after an experience of like feeling really childlike and like you can do whatever you want and you're free. When you fall off a trampoline, you realize the reality of like the world being like you can't fly. You're not Peter Pan. Or whatever. And like when you fall off and break your arm, you learn cautious discretion. Next time you go on the trampoline, you're going to be like, oh, I actually can't be that wild because I might hurt myself. Right? Like that's the metaphor she's playing into. But like also she quickly had to learn how to protect herself after 1989 because of the whole Reputation era and the cancellation and like all of these things. It's like soon she learned that, oh, I can't actually be as open and crazy and I can't do my secret sessions anymore. I can't, you know what I mean? Like all these things that you learn through a unfortunate event,
Also, I think it was also from that interview with Zane Lowe where he talked to her about this line about cautious discretion. And he said it made him think of when Taylor first went to one of Travis's games and then they drove away together in the getaway car in Travis's convertible and she like threw her hands up in the air. And he said in his mind, that was the first time he noticed her like throwing away the cautious discretion, which I think is really cool. But also this line, when the first time we listened to it, immediately made me think of this part from Seven.
Please picture me in the weeds before I learn civility. I used to scream ferociously anytime I wanted.
I love that line. Like when you're young and you just react. You just do whatever feels
You're crazy.
natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before you learn like how to be civil, you're just like a wild animal.
Yeah.
Just do what you want.
Right. And then it also reminded me of this section of Robin.
Long may you roar at your dinosaurs. You're a just ruler, covered in mud. You look ridiculous, and you have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Robin. We haven't covered that song yet, but
I know.
that one was a grower for us.
Yep. Grower.
I now love Robin.
I love Robin too.
But yeah, so that one especially, it's like describing that time in your childhood before learning cautious discretion. Like you look ridiculous and you have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And that's lovely.
And that is amazing. And I hope you never change. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're covered in mud. You're roaring at your dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you have not yet adopted cautious discretion.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we get when your first crush crushes something kind.
Dude, honorable mention for my favorite lyric.
I know, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's so real. Like when you have your first crush, like, and you get let down, you lose some of that like fairy tale, imagination of like romance or whatever it is you think like love is at that age. And you lose that innocence and that hopefulness of like being young and being like having a crush on someone.
Right. Yeah. And we have her write about that like explicitly in White Horse.
I'm not a princess, this ain't a fairy tale. I'm not the one you'll sweep off her feet, lead her up the stairwell. This ain't Hollywood, this is a small town. I was a dreamer before you went and let me down. Now it's too late for you and your white horse to come around.
Yep.
I was a dreamer before you went and let me down.
Yeah.
When your first crush crushes something kind.
Yep.
And then again, we have a little section from Robin, which is kind of describing like you will reach this point
right
in your life. And that's this whole section.
The time will arrive for the cruel and the mean. You learn to bounce back just like your trampoline, but now we'll curtail your curiosity and sweetness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like you will have a crush. They will crush your heart.
Mm-hmm.
The time will arrive for the cruel and the mean, but you'll learn to bounce back. Just like your trampoline. Another trampoline reference.
Yeah, another trampoline reference.
And then we get the doozy. When I said I don't believe in marriage, that was a lie. And we were both like...
Yeah, this was the first part of the song that like gagged us.
We were
like,
gagged.
Oh my God.
But like Taylor's learned that she has to protect herself by saying things to seem cool, or like she doesn't care, exactly what she was talking about in the other verses. But like saying that she doesn't believe in marriage gets her out of actually admitting that she does want to be married.
Right.
Like just like, I don't want to, like, I don't believe in marriage is an easier cop out than being like, oh, like he didn't want to marry me. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like, what a line. So of course, like we mentioned Lavender Haze before, but here's another Lavender Haze reference.
Oh, they keep asking me is if I'm gonna be your bride.
Which, again, this song was put in the denial playlist, which signals to us that Taylor was denying the desire that she had to actually maybe want to get married. And she was playing cool, like, oh, I don't believe in marriage. All they keep asking me is if I'm going to be your bride. Yuck. Like, you know what I mean? Self-protection.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-protection. Yeah. Like you can't be hurt by not having it if you
Mhm.
say you don't want it,
Right.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it also, this is also a very like eldest daughter thing, which is giving up the things that you want
Right.
to make someone else comfortable or happy or satisfied. But like, what about what she wants?
Right. Well, eldest
know?
daughters don't necessarily think about themselves first. They think about everyone else.
Yeah. And this brings it all back to like the marriage trauma in general
Oh,
that poor Taylor has experienced.
yeah.
So, of course, we've got this part from You're Losing Me.
And I wouldn't marry me either. A pathological people pleaser who only wanted you to see her. And I'm fading.
Also, pathological people pleaser, eldest daughter.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Eldest daughter. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also this part from So Long, London.
You swore that you loved me, but where were the clues? I died on the altar waiting for the proof.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then, okay, so all of this verse, plus like stuff we get in the bridge, made me initially think that this song was her speaking to her younger self and promising to not abandon that inner child and those parts of herself that she's like pushed down in order to protect herself.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that is still partially what she was writing about, because we know that Taylor can write about more than one thing at a time.
Yeah.
But in general, she has kind of written about this loss of innocence quite a lot.
Yep.
And a few that we like already mentioned were Never Grow Up, Robin, Seven,
Yep.
and White Horse. It's like loss of innocence or like realizing that the world is not like what you thought it was. So a couple other ones I wanted to mention. We've got this classic from What If, Could Have, Should Have.
Give me back my girl, and it was mine first.
Yeah.
Oof. By the way, if you have not listened to our Patreon episode on Would Have, Could Have, Should Have,
It's a doozy.
That's my plug.
Yeah. And if you don't want to subscribe, you can always buy it as a one-off.
And I would say that's a good one. So,
Yeah, that's a good one to pick.
Yeah.
All right. So then we have similar content from 15.
Abigail gave everything she had to a boy who changed his mind. And we both cried. 'Cause when
Which that whole song, like Taylor wrote 15, I think when she was 18.
Mm-hmm.
So she was looking back at herself at 15 and basically like how much more naive she was then.
Right.
Only 3 years earlier.
Right. Because
As
when
an
you're 15,
18-year-old.
like,
Yeah. And the next two like mention ages, which is kind of interesting. We have this one from The Best Day.
I'm 13 now and don't know how my friends could be so mean.
loss of innocence. Yep.
Yeah. And then one of our favorites, Nothing New.
How can a person know everything at 18 but nothing at 22?
I love that
Yeah.
song.
Me too.
But all of these songs, again, it talks about that loss of innocence, that like, self-protection that comes from basically being disappointed in
Mm-hmm.
people in life, and that just happens when you get older. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Pre-chorus 2.
Here we go.
Every eldest daughter was the first lamb to the slaughter. So we all dressed up as wolves and we loved fire.
Okay. So every eldest daughter was the first lamb to the slaughter. So like, again, if you're a lamb for the slaughter, you're like up for sacrifice, right? So
Yeah.
eldest daughters learn sacrifice because we're oftentimes like the buffer for other siblings.
Mm-hmm.
We often take the brunt of like parental mistakes or like siblings' mistakes. You know, we cover for people. We're the ones who are blamed if things go wrong because you're the responsible one. You should know better.
Yeah.
But like, they're also the first ones to be sacrificed in any situation. Like,
yeah, like this line always makes me think of my former mother-in-law because they're the first ones to give up everything they need for themselves to make sure everyone else has what they need.
Right.
And the reason this makes me think of my former mother-in-law is when her father had a stroke in 2019. She was living in New York State, like upstate New York. Her parents were living in Ohio, in the middle of nowhere. And even though her younger sister lives in the backyard of her parents' house, my mother-in-law literally dropped everything in her life and moved to Ohio to care for her father. Became full-time care for him until he passed like 2 years later. So, and then my father-in-law, they moved there, but she like, it was like the day after his stroke, she
was out. Yeah.
Left her job.
Yep.
Moved. And it was not an easy thing for her to do. And then, so her father passed in, I think it was 2021. And now she continues to be full-time care for her mother. And she's the eldest daughter. She has 2 younger siblings. And she does everything. She does absolutely everything. And it's a very thankless job. Yep. It's so hard on her. And I always say she's like the classic eldest daughter.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Right. Because nobody asked her to take on that responsibility. But also, like, she's like, well, of course I'm doing that. Of course
and if she didn't do it, who was going to do it?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, that's sort of like, you know, the sacrifices that we make when you're in that position is like. Yeah. But also, like, the thing about this line is that she twists it because every eldest daughter was the first lamb to the slaughter. So we all dress up as wolves and we look fire. So, like,
yeah,
it's a play on words. Like, a wolf in sheep's clothing is like, you know, dressing like a bad bitch, right? There's a form of like self-protection or armor. Because, like, if you look badass, if you look hot or whatever, no one's going to bother you. Like,
well, yeah. Well, the saying is a wolf in sheep's clothing actually means like someone who's like dangerous, who's pretending to be like kind and safe.
Right.
So she's twisting that.
Yeah.
This is more of like a sheep in wolf's clothing, like someone who's actually soft and kind.
Right. Like, I'm not trying to play you. I'm actually very vulnerable. I'm a lamb to the slaughter inside of this wolf.
But I need to dress up like a wolf to like trick myself and everyone else into believing that I'm strong and don't need anything. And like, but when we're actually, you know, from Sweet Nothing, she says, I'm too soft for all of it.
Exactly.
You know,
similar sentiments here. It's like, I actually am really vulnerable and scared wearing this costume or, you know, shield. Yes. Instead of actually showing you who I really am.
Yeah. And she says, and we looked fire. And fire is another contemporary slang term that she's throwing in here. That people say like, oh, you look fire, right? But it also ties back to the idea of a sacrificial lamb, like literally being thrown into the fire.
Right.
Like, we look fire because we are on fire.
Right.
We are being sacrificed.
We will be thrown into the flames.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I think that line gets, like, way too much hate because I don't think people are reading into it enough.
Yeah. The Swiftologist hates this line.
I roll.
No
just
comment.
I rolled so hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we have to go to the bridge.
Yeah, we can skip chorus too because it's all the same that we've touched on. So it's time for the bridge.
Buckle in. Here we go.
Oh no. I'm
scared. We lie back, a beautiful, beautiful time lapse. Ferris wheels, kisses, and
All right.
Here we are. So,
Okay.
where to start? Okay. We lie bag a beautiful, beautiful time lapses. Okay, we're getting a montage scene. Okay.
Yes.
We're getting that perfect scene, flashback memories of
I can see it in my head.
Yeah.
It's like a rom-com.
Yeah. Golden light.
Yeah. They're at the fair.
Yeah.
They're laying in the like lilac field, like in Twilight or whatever.
Yep. And things that she said were dumb. Again, self-protection mode.
Yeah.
That she's now realizing, like, I said that these are not dumb things. I said they were dumb because, again, self-protection. I think I relate to that line a lot because, like, I don't know what it is, but, like, I definitely have an issue with self-protection in a lot of things. I think it's just from past experiences, but, like, Ferris wheels, kisses, and lilacs, and things I said were dumb. So, like, when you're a teenager or, like, when you've been hurt by, like, other people, especially romantic relationships, like, going to the fair and kissing and, like, lilacs and, like, getting flowers, like, oh, that's just so dumb. I don't care about that. But really, you do care about that. And, like, I'm realizing, like, I said those things were dumb, but they're not, and I actually really like them.
Well, and this was one of the lines that really killed us on the first listen, where it was like, things I said were dumb because I thought I'd never find that.
Yeah, I thought I'd never get that. I thought I'd never have that person.
Right. Yeah, like, what did she say earlier that we were saying it was like this? When you found me, I said I was busy. That was a lie. Maybe that's kind of what I'm thinking of.
Just like these things, these excuses, these whatever.
Or when I said I don't believe in marriage, that was a lie.
Yeah.
Like, things I said were dumb because I thought I would never find that. Like, I never thought I would get married. So I'm going to be like, well, I don't
believe in it.
It's kind of dumb anyway.
Right. Self-protection mode. Yes. Yeah. And like, you wrote this down, but I also saw videos on this where, like, people were pointing out, I thought I'd never find that, rather than I never thought I'd find that. She's not saying I never allowed myself to believe that I would find it, or that she didn't think that she would actually happen. She's saying, like, no, I legit thought that I would never, like, this would never happen. Like, there's no chance.
Like, there's no chance. Like, yeah, she's not saying like, yeah, I didn't really think that. She's saying, like, no, I believed truly that will never happen.
Right. She never
it's
thought.
It's a more definitive way to say it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I thought I'd never find that.
And again, the next line is shimmers that innocent light back, which is like, oh my God. So it's like, again, all these things before she had to go to self-protection mode.
Right.
Like, when you were in the weeds, you were roaring like a lion. You were like that innocent light of childhood. You never thought that you'd find someone or a relationship or whatever it is that shimmers that light back into your life.
Yeah. And the part, because I thought I'd never find that beautiful, beautiful light, that's the part where it really starts to kill me. Where, like, if I think, I'm like, oh, it's the bridge, I'm staying strong. We hit that, and I'm like, oh no. I'm like, I'm losing it.
Yeah.
But I realized in looking at the lyrics from Seven that she says this in that song.
Are there still beautiful things?
Which, like, I never really thought about that lyric before, but, like, in Seven, it's like she's asking, like, does a beautiful life even still exist?
Turns out it does.
And then here she's saying, I thought I'd never find that beautiful, beautiful life that shimmers that innocent light back. Like, this is why this is a track 5. Like, she's telling us, like, here's where I was at. I never believed that life could exist, that I could have it. And now with this person who makes me feel a certain way, I'm like, oh, it does exist and I can have it. And turns out I wanted it all along.
Right.
But I was telling myself that I didn't care.
I was saying I was too busy. I don't believe in marriage. That's dumb. Turns out I do want all of those things. Yeah. Okay. So.
And this is where I'm going to cry. Because, like, this is where the fertility aspect of it comes in for me, because Like, here we go. I thought I'd never find that beautiful life that shimmers that innocent light back like when we were young. Like, is that not the most like perfect way to describe how having a child of your own makes you see things through their eyes and like relive your own childhood?
Yeah.
Like, this is what makes me sob. And also like being in this infertility space, like I thought I'd never find that. Like, it's awful, but it's like I hear this part and I think like I'm in this space right now of imagining that and like wondering, will I have that? But then like it also makes me think of like in a hopeful way,
Yeah.
hopefully in the future I can hear this song
Yeah.
and think like I thought I'd never find that,
Yeah. It's hope.
but I did.
Yeah.
That like this beautiful life that shimmers that innocent light back like when we were young. Like, you know, I was just with my nephew over the weekend. We were all at my parents' house like decorating the Christmas tree, and you know, we put on old home videos of us at Christmas time, and I'm running around in like a red Christmas onesie. And meanwhile, my nephew is running around like the same house in a red Christmas onesie. And, you know, it was bringing some of that like childhood wonder back to Christmas, even though he's still like a little too young to like really know what's going on. He's only like a year and a half.
Yeah.
But
there's something about like, children that when you're with children, you become a kid again in your own way. Because you're re-seeing the world through their
eyes. And,
yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's like, I don't think Taylor was writing about this from that perspective, and I don't think I'm the only one who reads it that way. I've seen this bridge used a lot in like infertility TikToks and stuff. But I think that's why like it is really so beautiful. You know, you've got the lilacs and the Ferris wheels. It's like a montage and it's saying like, I thought I'd never find that beautiful life that shimmers that innocent light back like when we were young. Like, it's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So good. But that's why it makes me cry.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And that now, like you said, you can't not think about it that way. So when you hear it, you're like, that's it. But the beautiful thing is that hopefully, God willing, like you're going to listen to this song when you do have your child and you're going to be like,
yeah,
even more,
and I'll still cry.
Even more devastated. You'll be like, can you even remember how that felt? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. God willing. That's what we hope for. Everyone please cross all your fingers and toes for me.
Yeah. Dude.
I've got some IVF stuff coming down the pipeline. So yeah.
Yeah.
Please. Anyway. Anything more on the bridge, or should we move on to pre-chorus 3?
Let's keep going.
Okay.
All
right, so here's pre-chorus 3.
Every youngest child felt they were raised up in the wild, but now you're home.
Yep.
Okay. I think when we first listened to this, we were like, what?
Yeah, we were like, excuse me, youngest child? We were talking about eldest daughters, like...
Yeah. Like, wait, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
But Travis is the youngest child, so very likely she's speaking to him here, saying, now you're home, like she's here to take care of him. But also, as the youngest child, again, it's a little muddy for me because I'm also eldest daughter.
Yeah, I feel like you are more of an eldest daughter than the youngest child. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, and also
in your family dynamic.
Everyone always thinks that my brother, who's the middle child, is the youngest.
Oh, for years, I was like, wait, what? No. No.
Everyone always thinks that. So, yeah, I don't fully relate to this whole, like, being raised up in the wild thing. Although, I guess, like, just in the sense that, like I said, it was like, no one had time for me. Like, right. I got to do my own thing.
You're on your own. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like Travis, I'm sure was a wild child. He's a boy.
Oh,
he's, he's
absolutely.
who he is. Like, you're raised up in the wild, like, you're like sort of the last thought, whatever. But like now she's home. She's making herself home for this like wild child. It's a place to settle.
Yeah.
Like take care of him and things like that. Again, the perfect mix of eldest daughter, youngest child relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, originally we were like, what is going? I don't get it. No. Like, okay, now I get it. Okay, should we just jam out to the end?
Yes.
Okay.
'Cause I'm not a bad bitch, and this isn't savage, and I'm never gonna let you down. I'm never gonna leave you out. So many traitors, smooth operators, but I'm never gonna break that vow. I'm never gonna leave you now.
Very pretty and sweet.
Yeah.
I feel like this is like kind of like her sweetest track 5.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Not as emotionally devastating as something like Tolerate It. That's for sure.
God. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I do have to say for our music theory analysis, there is this amazing video that we're going to link in our show notes, talking about basically the chord progression theory. The creator's name is Bridget Kalin, but her theory is that this song was originally probably written as a guitar song, and when you look at the guitar chords, you're going to see a pretty classic like A minor, C, G chord progression. But that's not what the piano is playing. So the right hand stays on the G chord the whole song except the bridge. And the left hand moves to change the chords. So G is like your
the home base.
Your home base, right? So think about the right hand almost like it is the eldest daughter. It's holding everything together. It's the anchor, right? So like if you listen to it, the right hand is staying basically in the same place. Left hand moves. Okay. But even now, that da 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 da, it's still holding down that one chord. Tries to go like flurry around, but it's really not leaving that home base while the left hand gets to go do whatever it wants. But then the bridge goes to the 5 chord, the 6 chord, the 4 chord away from home, and then eventually settles back on 1. So this on the bridge is when the right hand that was holding down the fort, staying home, lets go. And if you think about the context of what is being discussed in the bridge,
right,
that is when this flurry montage, like letting go moment happens. So like this allows the eldest daughter to feel for like the first time, which is why the bridge is a musical masterpiece. Like it's just like so good.
Yeah.
So finally, like the bridge is when we have it exiting home.
Yeah, it like takes off.
Right.
And it does do something to you.
Oh, it does. Absolutely.
Yeah. I really love that. I think that's a really cool music theory thing going on in this song specifically.
She does a really great job of playing on the piano because the bridge in the production is too not overproduced, but there's a lot of things going on in the production. She just plays it on piano and you can hear it really well. So go watch the video. It's very good.
Yeah. Another thing with this song is she kind of interpolates her own song, White Horse, with this. So just to show you what I mean, here's White Horse.
I'm not a princess. This ain't a fairy tale.
And here's Eldest Daughter.
But I'm not a bad bitch, and this isn't savage.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very similar melodies there, very similar lyrics, and the beat of it, all that.
Mm-hmm.
And White Horse is about being let down, right? Like
Yep.
Taylor actually told Billboard magazine, it's one of the songs that I'm really proud of on the record. It's from Fearless, by the way, because it's so sparse. It's guitar, piano, and cello. It talks about falling in love and the fairy tales that you're going to have with this person. And then there's that moment where you realize that it's not going to happen. That moment is the most earth-shattering moment.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's about like losing that sense of innocence when your first crush crushes something kind.
Yeah.
You have all these fairy tale ideas about what's going to happen and you just get let down. And which could certainly lead to you then protecting yourself in the future in that like eldest daughter fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Also similar sparse production for this song. I double checked the liner notes for this. Eldest Daughter is just piano, keys, guitar, bass, and tambourine. And by keys, does that just mean like electric piano?
Mm-hmm.
Like a keyboard as
Most of the
opposed to like
time.
an actual piano?
Yeah.
Okay. So she's interpolating White Horse a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
And we switch to Eldest Daughter, where she's kind of the white horse in this situation, telling Travis or whoever that like she won't let them down. But Travis is also kind of like her white knight, her knight in
Right.
shining armor, who's come to save her, from the fate of Ophelia, one
Right.
might say.
All
And has
alone in her
shown-
tower, he was honing
Yeah.
his powers. Yeah.
And he's shown her that she can have what she wants. So it's kind of interesting when you think about the two stories of these songs.
Yeah.
And she's interpolating, and they're both track 5s too.
Yep.
Yeah. Kind of cool.
It's a happier ending than White Horse, that's for sure.
Yeah. Much happier.
Okay.
Okay. Favorite lyrics and ratings.
Literally, our favorite is the bridge. I have the first half. Sarah has the second half. So the whole bridge really is our favorite.
Yeah.
part.
But you have the first half and I have the second half. Yeah.
So here's my favorite part.
We lie back, a beautiful, beautiful time lapse. Ferris wheels, kisses, and lilacs, and things I said were dumb.
Yeah.
And then mine is this part.
'Cause I thought that I'd never find that beautiful, beautiful life that shimmers that innocent light back, like when we were young.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the bridge. It's
the
so
bridge.
good.
It's the bridge. Yeah.
right.
I gave this song a 9.3.
Mm-hmm. I thought you would have done like a 9.5.
Like it to me, the bridge is like the most powerful part, and like some of the verses are like ring true, but overall, like it's a great song. It's not going to reach the same heights as like "'Tis the Damn Season," "Mirror Ball" for me, but
Right.
just in terms of like lyricism, and storytelling, the bridge is really the like meat. And since it's not like entirely carried through the whole song, it's not quite that high, but
yeah. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I think it's a really beautiful song. But I think for me, it gets pushed up a little bit to that 9 because of the emotional impact. Like there's just a lot there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't think it's like her best track 5.
No, it's just
from like an objective standpoint.
Yeah, I think it just had emotional impact, which is why
which is part of why I love her song. So emotional impact weighs heavily for me.
Low-key, the fact that people hate on this song so much makes me like it more. Okay? So
yeah, you're like standing on your ground.
I'm
you're
10
like,
toes down.
Exactly.
This is a great song.
We're standing on business with this one.
Standing on business, for sure. Okay.
Right.
So, Song as a Recipe. I chose this recipe by Jillian Harris. It's a spiked blackberry lilac lemonade. Had to do a lilac moment. That was the lyric that got me.
It's so like perfect for you.
Yeah. And just like do you remember like summer, like your mom would just be like, hey, I have lemonade in the house. It was definitely like the like Minute Maid like package stuff. Like, but it was just like that innocent time where it's like, oh my God, we have lemonade. And you just like guzzle it down. You go back outside with your friends and like,
right.
It's that innocent light of childhood for me is lemonade. So I was like, this is the perfect sort of concoction. Also, like, I'm sure it's good without the alcohol. So
yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said this song is Dunkaroos.
Love it.
Because like I said earlier, I think this is probably her sweetest track 5. And the childhood innocence factor of this song is so huge for me. And Dunkaroos to me are like about childhood and giving into that inner child. Like that's how I feel when I have them as an adult.
I want them so bad right now.
I know, like we're gonna have to like run to Target or whatever.
Dunkaroos, yes.
Yeah, and like they were discontinued for a while, and then they came back a couple years ago. So yeah, bless.
Yeah.
And I just as a link, I have a link to a recipe for homemade Dunkaroos from Food 52, and the recipe is actually from Molly Ye, who I think she's like on the Food Network and stuff now. But Molly is one of my original blogging friends from back in my food blogging days, and she is lovely. I love Molly, so shout out to her and her recipe here for homemade. She
also has a great funfetti cake recipe too. So
yeah,
that tracks.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we did it. Tears were shed.
Yeah.
Wasn't too bad.
We did better than I thought.
Yeah, for sure. Our next episode is going to be Ruin the Friendship, which is another zippy song. So
right.
So looking forward to that. And yeah, I guess we'll start signing off because
it's time to sign off.
It's time. So thank you so much for joining. If you'd like to support the pod, please make sure you're following us at Blank Plate Pod on TikTok and Instagram. And make sure you're following us on YouTube as well. We're so close to reaching 1,000.
Please hit that subscribe button.
Yes.
And you can check out our website at blankplatepodcast.com. You can email us at blankplatepod@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail or text us at 717-382-8313.
And we mentioned Patreon in the episode, but if you're enchanted by what we're doing here, support us on Patreon. You can subscribe or you can buy individual episodes if, would've, could've, should've, wet your whistle. But we're also going to include a clip of 'Tis the Damn Season at the end of this episode, which was another good one.
Yeah. So until next time, we had the time of our lives with you.
And it's time to go.
Bye.
Bye.
So I'll go back to LA and the so-called friends who'll write books about me if I ever make it.
Mm-hmm.
Like this line's kind of sad.
It is sad. It's like those fake, like I can imagine like her being paranoid about creating these fake friendships that like people who use her, because then down the line, if they're not close, they're going to use stories of her, clickbait of like, basically using Taylor as like a storyline for their own good, for their own selves. To elevate their own status. Oh, I'm Taylor Swift's friend, or like, oh, they're going to write books about me because I'm going to be this huge star, and they're going to use them as like a reference for like an undisclosed biography. You know what I mean? Just something like that. Like the paranoia of being famous.
Yeah. Yeah. And wonder about the only soul who can tell which smiles I'm faking.
Oof.
Like this person is the only like real person who can tell what she's feeling and who knows her truly. But these fake friends in LA don't really know her.
And she's spending time with these fake friends because she chose the life of it in LA versus being with this one person who knows her at that real level. And the heart I know I'm breaking is my own, to leave the warmest bed I've ever known. Girl.
Yeah. That familiarity and comfort is actually breaking her own heart to leave him behind.
Yeah.
But she also knows she has to.
Right. Yeah. Because like the easy way in life would be just to stay at home and live the perfect life. But like again, like, it kind of reminds me of this line from Midnight Rain. Yeah.
It came like a postcard, picture perfect, shiny family, holiday, peppermint candy. But for him, it's every day.
Oh,
Hey,
Jack.
Yeah. Oh, I love that part of Midnight Rain, though.
Me too. It's like the warmest bed she's ever known. Like, his life is a postcard. Like, he has a picture perfect, shiny family, like holiday peppermint candy. Like, everything's just like fluff and beautiful. And like, that's every day for him. And like, that's the warmest bed she's ever known. Like, how easy would it be to just like settle into that familiarity and comfort?
Mm-hmm.
And like, she's breaking her own heart by doing that. But like, she knows that's like what she needs to do.
Yeah.